of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Town of Burlington will be holding the February 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board as a hybrid meeting due to the current state of emergency due to the COVID-19 virus. As such, the Governor issued an executive order on March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings under General Law Code 30A, Section 20, and extended by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. Including permitting remote meetings and participation until March 31st, 2023.
As always, members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance or participation is being provided as a courtesy, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Those seeking to participate remotely may do so via the following: townofburlington.webex.com. Our meeting number is 2346-033-0753. You can join by phone at 617-315-0704. The meeting is being broadcast on the BCAT government channel. You can find it on Comcast 99, RCN 15, and Verizon 41. We're being streamed on Facebook Live on the BCAT government Facebook page. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to propose a set of rules governing public participation at this time, and also moving forward at this meeting and for all subsequent meetings. These rules are as follows. The Planning Board welcomes public participation at its meetings under the following conditions. Number one, public participation on matters that are on our agenda are allowed at the time of the board's discussion on that matter. The chair will call for comments for the public at that appropriate time. Commenters must wait to be recognized by the chair. Each participant will be allotted 2 minutes to speak and must restrict comments to the agenda item being discussed. Number two, there'll be a time at the beginning of each meeting that is set aside for public comment on matters not on the current agenda. The chair will call for comments from the public at the appropriate time. Commenters must wait to be recognized by the chair. Each participant will be allowed 2 minutes to speak and must restrict comments to matters which are under the jurisdiction of the board. Planning board jurisdiction includes the following: long-range planning efforts, parcel rezoning applications, special permit applications, insignificant change applications, zoning bylaw changes, site plan applications, minor engineering change applications, preliminary and definitive subdivision applications. Number three, public participation must be conducted in a respectful, professional manner. Threats, incitement to imminent lawless conduct, obscenities, personal attacks, defamatory statements, and sexually explicit statements will not be tolerated. Does anyone from the board have any questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to formally adopt the Public Participation Code of Conduct for the Planning Board.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We have some items being continued off tonight's agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take item 7T out of order for discussion purposes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item T is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.2.1, supermarket of the zoning bylaws, 120 Cambridge Street, Foodland Supermarket, Inc., as the applicant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the Planning Board meeting of February 16th at the request of the applicant in an email dated February 1st, 2023.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd further like to make a motion to take items 7O and through 7S out of order for discussion purposes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item O is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.7.4. Laboratories engaged in research, experimental, and testing activities included but not limited to the fields of chemistry, electronics, engineering, geology, non-biologic medicine, and physics, the zoning bylaws. 22 Terry Avenue, AP Terry LLC is the applicant. Item P is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.7.4.1, life science laboratories engaged in research, prototype manufacture, experimental and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceuticals, biomedical technologies and engineering, life system technologies, environmental and biomedical devices, biosafety level 4, BL4 laboratories as defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which are prohibited in Burlington of the zoning bylaws. 22 Terry Avenue, AP Terry LLC is the applicant. Item Q is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.4.2. Life Science Laboratories engage the manufacture of life science technologies and medicines for commercial production to the market, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceuticals, biomedical technologies and engineering, life system technologies, environmental biomedical devices, biosafety level 4 BL4 laboratories as defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which are prohibited in Burlington and the zoning bylaws. 22 Terry Avenue, AP Terry LLC is the applicant. Item R is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.9, hazardous and toxic materials, chemical use, storage, transport, disposal, or discharge of the zoning bylaws. 22 Terry Avenue, AP Terry LLC is the applicant. Item S is continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.11, generation or storage of hazardous waste limited to the volumes classified as a very small quantity generator of the zoning bylaws. 22 Terry Avenue, AP Terry LLC is the applicant. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of March 16th, 2023, at the request of the applicant in an email dated January 30th, 2023.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public participation time. As we recently adopted those rules, please adhere to those. Each participant will be allotted 2 minutes and must identify themselves prior to speaking. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on an item that is not on our current agenda? Seeing no one. Liz, would you mind announcements, please?
Sure. So announcements. So I just wanted to let the board know that Representative-elect Krista Kasner and the former planning director here is going to be sworn into the Massachusetts House of Representatives tomorrow. She won her race, and so, you know, she's a mentor of mine. She's done a lot for the town of Burlington, and we're super excited and proud of her. So I just wanted to get that out there. Last night, we had a Blanchard Wheeler Road public meeting for the visioning of that area, looking at, you know, safety, sidewalk improvements, bike improvements, all that type of stuff. It was really well attended. There'll be another public meeting coming up in a few months, but we will keep you guys posted about it and our progress going thus far. The Board of Health is having a subcommittee next Monday at 2 p.m. via WebEx. They're going to be updating their hazardous materials regulations. The Zoning Bylaw Review Committee is meeting on February 8th at 6:30 on Zoom. And then President's Day is coming up February 20th. Town offices will be closed. It's also February vacation, so kids will be off of school. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any announcements that they'd like to? Okay. Moving on. Item A is a discussion request for an extension of time for a site plan approval. 75 Middlesex Turnpike, Lord and Taylor, LT Burlington Leasehold LLC is the applicant. Staff, did you?
Sure. So if you recall, last year we approved a site plan. Lord and Taylor went out of business. Their parent company, Hudson Bay Company, is looking to reposition the property, and they came to us to look at kind of site changes and upgrading the exterior. They are just beginning to get started. Site plans have a 1-year lapse, so they're looking to just make sure they're staying in compliance with us, so they're asking for an extension of time on that.
Great. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board hereby grant a 1-year extension of time from February 2nd, 2023 to February 2nd, 2024 to complete the required site plan improvements at 75 Middlesex Turnpike, Lord and Taylor, as requested by the applicant in an email dated January 13th, 2023.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on. Item B is a discussion application for approval of a minor engineering change. 75 Middlesex Turnpike, which is the Burlington Mall. Common Craft is the applicant. Who is here on behalf? If you wouldn't mind. If you'd kindly state your name for the record once you get situated.
Larry Leibowitz, Colin Craft.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thank
you.
Liz?
Sure. So Common Craft was permitted in 2020. Part of the redevelopment of the Sears portion of the Burlington Mall. And so they have come to us. They're looking to expand their exterior space. If you recall, in the site plan that we permitted for the new mall when they were redoing the Sears, area, that everybody kind of had patio spaces that were pre-existing, and so this applicant is looking to expand that patio space onto some of the green area that was built as part of the redevelopment there. I think as a beer garden, activate the space, outdoor games, that type of thing. So that's kind of my understanding, but, so.
Great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your application, sir?
Sure. So Common Craft is a restaurant space in the new lifestyle open air center of the mall, and the green space that you see before you is an open area that I have activated in the past of the summer with a special permit events that were theme-based, and they went off without a hitch. There was some really great feedback, and it certainly created a lot of texture and business enjoyment for that area of the mall. So what I'm proposing or asking for is to enclose that area with a fence so that I can be ABCC compliant. And I've already received permission from the landlord to take on that space as well. They feel that Common Craft will be a better steward of that space to activate it as such. And some of those things would include, as Liz mentioned, lawn games, themed events, and various different activations of sort that Common Craft will use to extend the restaurant.
Great. That space, is that, originally it was a common area. Is that now included in your lease, or?
It is, yes. So I received an extension of the lease with to take on that space, which would still be common area in nature. As I stated in some of the documentation, it would still be open to the common area where there's no purchase required, and there wouldn't be anybody that would be asked to leave from the space. The fencing is really the only thing that would change, and that's only because I would want to be ABC compliant. But other than that, nothing really changes in look and feel of that space, except it'll be a lot more exciting.
So, and staff, I hope
Sure.
you have this question.
Sure.
Or answer to this question. So it says open area gap in fence. Is that still considered ABC compliant if that's open, or is there a gate there?
There's no gate. So I'm the open area so that we can enter and exit unencumbered.
Right, so if I'm playing cornhole and I have a beer, I can still walk out that space because I'm on the lawn and it's
Right.
a couple feet away. So is that still
So
considered?
even with a gate, you'd be able to walk out. The onus is on the individual from staying in the confines and the management of the space to make sure that everybody's abiding by the rules.
So will there be staff present out there all the time, or how's that?
There will be, yeah, there will be attendance, absolutely.
Is it the security, somebody focused specifically on being compliant, or is it, just typical wait staff?
So there will not be somebody at that entrance area, if that's what you're asking. No, there won't be.
I mean, I think I've shared with you before, I love the concept, I love Common Craft, I think it's great. My only concern is I feel like that green space should be gated off and have the open area be the entryway where the pavement is. But, so does that make sense? Did you mark up that plan?
I marked it up when we had our pre-meeting, but I can mark it up now, I believe.
Well, I'll ask the board, does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments that they'd like to make?
No, go ahead. Yeah. Are you ready? Are you, I'd be happy to, whatever.
So right now, that's wide open right now?
Correct.
Okay.
The only area that there's a fence is, see where it says, see where the brown arrow is?
Over there, okay.
It says, existing fencing. That's the only area that's fenced off. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can access it without going into the interior of the facility. Or-
Well, you can access it, but it's not, it's not an open, it's not accessible.
Right.
It's not an entrance, correct?
Yeah, so is that,
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
yeah, just to kind of
having
make
that.
it,
So see where she added that extra orange line, so it would be fenced in around the green space area, and then the entryway would be in the pavement.
Question, is the little blue structure, is that a bar?
No, that's a bottle shop.
Okay, because otherwise it wouldn't be accessible. So, Mayor?
Yeah, of course.
I agree with Madam Chair. I'd like to see it fenced off, and you could have a gate there. I think that would be fine. And then just a couple of quick questions. The fence, is that black wrought iron look?
It's black aluminum that matches the existing fence there, and I included the specs in the packet.
Is it 4 feet high?
Correct.
All right.
It's aluminum, but it's made to look like a wrought iron fence, is that?
I think so.
I think it does.
There was a picture. We can pull back.
Caleb.
Yep.
See?
Yep, okay.
And quite honestly, I think the fence, I think it's a good choice in fencing, because I think it'll disappear. I don't think you'll actually see it. I think it'll do what it's intended to do, which is to mark off the barrier. But given with all the scale of the building and the different colors and textures of the landscape, I really think that the fence is going to be, is going to kind of disappear from an eyesore standpoint.
Good.
So my only, what I'd like to see, I see there's a lot of low shrubs and some low plantings. I'd like to see some trees.
So, so there are plantings, as you see, and they're fairly new. I'm told that those are expected to grow up a little bit higher, which is going to, I believe, do what you're suggesting, sir.
Well, are they trees or are they shrubs?
Well, they're shrubs, and they're a mixture between shrubbery and grasses and.
I'd like to see some trees in there, just to give some dimension to it and some, a feeling of, it's a grassy area, then, let's make it look like an outdoor treat area. And I think that's, for purposes of, to be honest with you, there's some parts of that area over there that are a little, I've had multiple people in town say just, they're not sure what all that, the orange things that is in the air and, the design things over there. I think if we brought some natural look down there, I think it would really make it, dress it up nicely and make that look more like grass if we have some trees. Shrubs are fine, but there's, to bring some height and a little bit of depth into that area would be nice. And I don't see it as really being a negative for you, right? I mean, there's nothing negative about trees in there. It's not like you're trying to, you're blocking a view or something, right? It's just gonna give more atmosphere for the people that are out there using that area.
I think that these 2 trees would be very nice along that front area.
Can trees root in that area, though? Are they gonna create issue with the sidewalk if they start rooting?
No, there's trees that will have a very small root system. They use them on sidewalk trees,
Probably like an ornamental pear or something like that.
Exactly, it's like a sidewalk tree. The root systems don't go deep or far or.
Are you opposed to adding 2 trees to the front?
Adding 2 trees? Sure, adding 2 trees.
Okay.
What's the distance? I don't know.
Sorry.
Two enough?
The distance, he
The
said.
distance of this area, what's the square footage?
I don't know.
Do we know the dimensions of that area, by chance? Is it on here?
I think you guys,
I mean, I'd like to see, I'm not sure 2 is really gonna make it look much different.
I mean, so
it's on,
I would think maybe something in
Maybe
the
3.
front corner, but you want to be cognizant of, there is another space that is available for lease that we wouldn't want to block
Right.
that area,
Yep,
right? And,
certainly don't wanna create, that's why I was saying I don't wanna create any visual problems for them, but I think it just, as far as visually and atmosphere-wise, I think some trees there would be a nice feature, and I'm just not sure 2, Barbara, maybe, I'm just thinking
Not opposed to more.
a few more trees in there, and, to maybe give us we're probably planning on voting on it tonight, I would assume.
I would hope so.
Yeah, so we're not gonna have an opportunity to see another landscape plan, but
I mean,
if you could give us some sort of assurance that we could get something down there.
I'm comfortable with 2. Do you need 3?
Well, where would you put 2 trees? Like, how would you put them?
I would put one in the corner, a little bit down, yep, in that corner, and then
Yep.
I'd put one on the other side where it says open area gate. Even if, yeah, that's what I would put them right there, that way.
We're not gonna have the open area.
Correct, it's gonna be a fence. I'm just pointing out the specific area. I think that that would be beneficial. It would add some dimension,
Yeah, I
because you have to
mean-
bear in mind, when he's going to be adding, you know, I'm sure there's gonna be tables out there, or there's, you know, potentially umbrellas, which we know we don't want any advertising on umbrellas.
Well, is there
Gotcha.
gonna be, so when you say sure there will be, do we know what will happen for sure out there, or?
Well, it depends on what he's gonna be doing, you know, I think you had like a luau or something along those lines.
Yeah,
one
the
time,
space will
so-
change. It's gonna constantly changing. It'll look similar to that for cornhole and weeknights, and there'll be a band and a tiki hut for a tiki event,
The
and
ladder golf, you're gonna add some ladder golf.
maybe we'll put a whole course in there.
Perfect.
So this is, we're looking at it from the parking lot looking in.
Yeah, this is a drone view from the parking lot.
I mean, my preference would be 4 trees and you place them where you want.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can commit to 4 trees. I
I mean, you could eliminate some shrubs, you could go with grasses and trees, you know, the high ornamental grasses and trees, and I think that would be a really
okay.
homey, kind of cool atmosphere for people to be able to hang out there.
All right. Can we compromise on 3?
3 trees and some ornamental grasses.
3 trees and autograph sold.
Done. All right. So, is there anything else that anyone would like to add to this?
I just want to, for the record, there will be no additional seating as part of this plan, so there's, you know, the Board of Health doesn't need to look at the grease trap or anything. He was permitted a certain amount, and he's going to keep a certain amount. I think that is the only thing else.
Can we also add into the decision that obviously no advertising on umbrellas or
Right.
awnings, but also no televisions outside? Are you gonna be putting televisions outside? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And if they are, they just can't face
They have to face
the
into the
traffic. They
restaurant,
have to
not
face in,
out.
but, you know,
But it's
just so
not-
they're not
Yeah, sure.
distraction, yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. May I have a motion then? Oh, I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment at this time?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board hereby grant a one-year.
We're gonna close the public hearing.
I'm reading the wrong one, sorry.
Can we close the
Madam
public
Chair,
hearing?
I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on this matter. Second.
Second, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd further like to make a motion to approve the request of Simon Property Group, the property owner, for approval of a minor engineering change for property located at 75 Middlesex Turnpike, Common Craft Brewery, to allow for extension of leased premise to include green space in front of Common Craft Restaurant with a fenced enclosure as reflected on the red-lined site plan entitled Proposed Common Craft Restaurant with a fenced enclosure. Restaurant prepared by VHB dated May 29th, 2020, consisting of one sheet and a red-lined aerial image entitled Proposed Fencing for Green Space Outside Common Craft, received February 1st, 2023, prepared by Larry Leibowitz, consisting of one sheet and subject to the following revisions, terms, and conditions as amended.
Second?
One thing I'd like to just say, once you determine the locations, I'd like to just get final approval.
Yep.
I just don't want 3 trees next to each other and, you know, not spread out. So the preference would be for them to be spread out and to have the landscape spread out, so it's, you know.
Review with staff and chair.
Yeah, just when you identify where you want to put that, just run it by them, they'll just, you know, as long as it's reasonable, there should be no issue, right?
Great. Can I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Member Ladder Golf.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, let's move on to item A is a public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.20.1 massage therapy of the zoning bylaws, 125 Cambridge Street. Jing Shang LLC is the applicant. Good evening. If you wouldn't mind approaching the microphone, please. Good evening. If you would kindly state your names for the record, please.
Sworn in, ma'am.
My name Xiulricoi.
I'm Wendy Cranville. I'm helping her, assisting her with this process.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm Michael McNamara, husband.
Thank you for coming. Staff, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on here?
Sure. So we received this request. So we have received a copy of the applicant's massage therapy license. So she's currently licensed in the state. This site is right next to the entrance to the high school. It actually is a site that has a salon in it. It's owner occupied. I think the owner of the property is an acupuncturist, and so this is, she's gonna be occupying a tenant space within the property that I think previously had a massage therapy business in it. The only thing that we wanted to make sure of is, and it's not the tenant's responsible, it's that of the property owner, but the building department just wants to make sure that they reach out to confirm that their parking, ADA parking is in compliance. So I'm gonna, put that in the special permit just to make sure that they're in compliance with that. But other than that, staff has no concerns with this application.
Great, thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Right here we have three rooms, and I just want to do feet massage and then walk back, and then for stone, for cut stone, something like this, and then just like not healthy, not dangerous. It's healthy to just like this, small business.
Will it just be you as a massage therapist, or will you have employees?
I try, but a new open, I don't know. So what's going on for business? I want to see, but first I need to work in here.
Sure.
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add one thing, that I was informed from the applicant that she has worked, or I think run, a massage therapy studio in Middleton previously. So this is not a new business model for her.
Understood. Are there doors on do we have like an interior site plan, or no?
We don't at this point. I don't think we have an interior site plan of this particular property. If that's something you want, I mean, it's not something we've typically asked in the past.
I think it's just typically been presented in the past, no? Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Just
Sure.
quick question. So you haven't, I assume you didn't reach out to Middleton at all?
Is that the,
Speak with anyone where the other location was and how?
oh,
in fact-
I think she was the owner of the other one, wasn't she?
She sold it prior to COVID.
Okay, so it's not in operation any longer?
No.
How long did you operate that location?
6 years.
Okay. Any
No-
problems, no
no
violations of
problem,
any
yeah.
sort
No
with
house
Board of Health or
problem,
anything?
nothing
Nothing?
problem.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a small space over there, and it does have 10 spots in the back. I think the building inspector was looking at the front when he said that, but there are 10 spots out back.
yeah, just
They
make
go
sure
with
that
this.
they comply, he just needs to make sure they comply with handicap accessibility. So I don't think it's a huge lift, but I just wanted to make sure that's on the record, to make sure that the site's compliant with that.
Sure. Does anyone-
And this is on the, yeah, so this is all, there's obviously the plaza where they're at is all handicap, everything's accessible in there.
Yeah, I think it was just, he mentioned in Viewpoint in our online permitting system that the handicap parking spaces, he wants to make sure that the handicap parking spaces are meet compliance, and I'm gonna condition that, you know, a building permit can't be, he probably won't be issued unless those are managed by the property owner.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions, comments?
Excuse me, the owner of the property was trying to be here, but he got stuck in traffic, and he asked if I would read this.
Of course.
Which I'm not good at doing.
Take your
I was
time.
like, really? Okay, so, he said, when I met Amy for the first time, I felt how much she wanted to be part of our community. I met her a few times, and I decided to let her use my unit because I had impressions that her service and honesty would help us in our community. I hope she has success with her business, and I know she will be a great asset to the community.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, could you provide the owner's name for the record?
Yeah, Young Jun Min.
Great. Thank you very much, that was a very nice sentiment.
Sounds like we'll be lucky to have you.
Yeah. May I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that has any questions, comments, concerns?
We
Oh,
have,
I'm
we
sorry.
do have one hand up. Let me unmute them. They should get a notification.
Mr.
Good evening. Would you please state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Marguerite Palucci. I live directly across the street where this unit is going in. So you mentioned that there is more parking in the back of this building?
Yes. Hence, I
Okay,
think there's 10 spots up back.
Okay, because I am concerned with the overflow coming across the street and parking on Birchcrest Street. We have a lot of problems with parking on Birchcrest due to the high school, due to the plaza next door, and now across the street. So it's just a concern. The second thing is, it's a massage therapy. Is there an age limitation? Because we have high schoolers right next door.
I don't believe so. You know, massage therapy is just that. You know, a 17-year-old, I guess, with approval of their parent could get a massage.
But they would have to get an approval.
Yes, I believe so.
For her, they would
Okay,
have
well,
to
that,
meet with-
that was just a concern because, you know, I don't want to see
Parent
15-year-old
has to be.
kids.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, this might help you with, if you want to make this statement.
We ran into this before, and they wouldn't do it unless the parent was there with them and stayed the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, great, great. Yeah, I'm just trying to look out for our kids. My children have grown up in this system. They started here when they were babies. They're now in their 30s and all moved off. But I know there are still up and coming generations. And as a resident in this area, I always look out for these kids. All right, that was my only concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else is there anyone else on the?
I see no one else.
Great.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd further like to make a motion to approve a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.20.1, massage therapy of the Town of Burlington zoning bylaws to permit the operation of a spa with massage therapy within an existing tenant space to be known as Ying Shen Wellness for property located in the Business Limited and Central Business Districts at 125 Cambridge Street, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A attached.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome to Burlington.
Welcome to Burlington.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I also didn't know there was a.
May I have a motion, please? Anyone? A motion.
Take items B.
Yep. Motion to take items 7B through 7E together for discussion purposes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Item B is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.7.1, light manufacturing or processing plants, prototype manufacturing of the zoning bylaws, 68 Adams Street, 21st Century Concrete, Inc. is the applicant. Item C is the public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.9, hazardous and toxic materials, chemicals, use, storage, transport, disposal, or discharge of the zoning bylaws. 6-8 Adams Street, 21st Century Concrete, Inc. is the applicant. Item D is a public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 1.1, non-conforming use of the zoning bylaws. 6-8 Adams Street, 21st Century Concrete, Inc. is the applicant. Item E is a public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 6.1.2, non-conforming structures and premises of the zoning bylaws. 6-8 Adams Street, 21st Century Concrete, Inc. is the applicant. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thomas Murphy here for the applicant. Property in question, 6-8 Adams Street, is an IG zoning district. It's also in the aquifer. This is, for those who might be listening and not familiar with it, it's right off the Middlesex Turnpike on Adams Street going towards Lexington. It's currently owned by the Perkins Construction Company. They've been operating a sand and gravel business there for quite a few years. There were several previous owners, so it's been a sand and gravel business at least back into the 1940s. That's as far back as I looked. But the Perkins Company has been running it since 2006. In 2006, they came before this board, received a special permit and a site plan approval because they were doing some work to the site. And if you have had a chance to review the 2006 special permit, it's a very involved, lengthy, condition-laden decision, so clearly a lot of work was put into it at the time. It's given the use, given the location and things of that nature. So since then, the Perkins Company has been running it. Mr. Perkins has gotten to the point where he's looking to retire, so he's reached an agreement to sell the business to my client, which is 21st Century Concrete. This particular property, plus another property that Mr. Perkins owns in Hudson, Mass, is also included in the sale. So in any event, by the language contained in the 2006 decision, if a subsequent owner was coming in, they had to come before this board to get their own special permit. It couldn't just be assigned without the permission of this board. So that's why we're here.
Attorney Murphy, if you could speak a little louder, folks can't hear you.
It works.
Nice and close. Thank you.
So in any event, 21st Century Concrete and Mr. Perkins reached an agreement. So they're before you tonight asking for the special permit. By way of background, 21st Century Concrete is part of a family-run business, dates back to 1915, the Clemente family. I did a little looking into it. The Carmine Clemente came over from Italy, started the business in Troy, New York. And it's been a family-run business since. It's currently run by his great-grandchildren and his great-great-grandchildren, some of whom are here tonight. They've spread over the years. They've got facilities in Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, and Vermont. They've been around for a long time. They operate under several different corporate entities, but they're clearly a going concern. They get a very good reputation in the business, well earned over the years. They're a very responsible company, and certainly not a fly-by-night operation. So just to give you a little bit of background of who's looking to come in to work in the town, this is a very solid company. The intent and the desire is to just step into Mr. Perkins' shoes and continue to operate the business in the same manner that it's been being operated since 2006. Not looking to expand it, not looking to do any site work, no construction, not changing anything on the site, just step in and continue business as usual. I know I've seen several emails from some of the Lexington abutters with concerns that perhaps the business was expanding or changing or things of that nature, and I just want to assure the board and the abutters that that's certainly not the intent here. The color of the trucks might be different or something, but other than that, it's going to be the same. Matter of fact, a lot of the same Perkins employees are staying on site. Mr. Perkins is retired, but you know, all of his employees were ready to retire, so you're really not going to see too much of a difference in the operation, including the personnel, as to what's been going on for the last 15 years or so. And from what research that I could find in asking around, there haven't been a lot of complaints about the way Perkins has been operating the business down there, so clearly the Clemente family intends to do the exact same thing. With me tonight on the call, I believe, the WebEx is Luke Clemente. In the room tonight is Carl Clemente, his brother, Maria Clemente, who is Carl's daughter, and Minot Wood, who's the company engineer, who's going to kind of oversee the operation. So they are all here to answer any questions or address any concerns the board might have, but we're hoping at the end of the process, the board will grant the permits and welcome the Clemente family to Burlington.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, of course.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that I received a call today from Ken Gordon, who had been hearing from some of his constituents with their questions and concerns. He was not able to be here tonight, but he asked me to let everyone know that there is someone from his office. Kanush is here, I think online. She'll be taking notes and reporting back to Ken Gordon, and he will probably attend our next meeting. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff?
So Attorney Murphy kind of summed it up. This is an existing use. You know, Burlington used to be full of sand and gravel sites. The mall used to be a sand and gravel site. It's kind of a legacy use here in town. And you know, in doing my own research, other departments have had, our department, I've worked here 7 years, and other departments, including the Board of Health, had not had any complaints about this company. And the Board of Health does do annual inspections of the site, because they do have products that are considered hazardous. And so every year they go on a site visit and tour the site, and they have not had any issues or violations. You know, this is kind of, from an administrative standpoint, we're looking at kind of just a change of ownership, a change of the name on the special permit. I just kind of, for the record, would like some assurances from the applicant's attorney and their client that, you know, they've read the 2006 special permit, that they understand it and will abide by it. This is kind of our chance to do some due diligence, and I know that you guys will be doing that tonight, so that's why we're here. Our office has also received a lot of letters and emails from members of the community in Lexington. You know, again, it's not a new use, it's an existing use, and you know, we've passed those concerns on to the board. They've all been kind of very concise and put together nicely, so you know, there's nothing outlandish about what the neighbors are requesting. And I have a couple of questions that I think for the applicant, and to kind of get out of the way, can you just kind of give us an overview of what exactly happens on the site, what do you do there, how is it operated, what are the hours of operation, what are you going to be continuing to do, and then if you can talk a little bit about you know, how you do have a hazardous materials registration form, just for our understanding, how will the hazardous materials be handled and, you know, disposed of, and how does that work, just for all of our understanding, would be my kind of, those are big questions, but just see what
Not
you.
being an expert on the sand and gravel business, I'm going to defer to either the engineer or my client on that. I don't know who would like to handle that one.
Yeah.
This is Minot Wood, he's the engineer.
Nice to meet you.
Good evening. Hi.
Carl Clemente and Maria Clemente.
Hazardous waste generated on the site consists of used motor oil, and we're classified by DEP as a VSQG, the smallest generator, which is 110 kilograms, less than 27 gallons. It's the same type of oil when you change a car. It's stored in double containment in the maintenance garage. And when there's enough there, it's picked up by, I'm not sure who picks it up now, but a licensed recycler. And that's the only hazardous waste that's generated there. There's so-called chemicals that are additives to the concrete. Concrete is a mixture of aggregate, sand, and water, and cement. And those admixtures reduce the amount of new fresh water that you need to make the concrete. To conserve water, you add less water because of the chemicals. An overall process, sand and stone are trucked into the site from our facility in Sterling, stockpiled, put into the concrete plant, dumped into a truck in an enclosed facility that captures all the dust. Water's added, cement's added, and then the truck leaves. Delivers concrete to your driveway, your backyard patio. Anything else?
So how are the hazardous chemicals disposed of?
They're not disposed of. They go into the concrete.
Okay, there's no byproduct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead.
Just a few. So it just, what throws you off a little bit is the other one was called a sand and gravel. This one's called a concrete company. But it's the same amount of, it'll be the same combination of sales of concrete and sand and gravel that exist today?
Yeah, I think in the special permit, they were limited to 1,800 cubic yards per week.
Okay. And all of the mixing happens in a contained area?
The deposit of the materials into the truck is in a contained area. And then it's a moist material because of the water and the admixtures. That's in the truck. The truck does the actual mixing as it's traveling down the road.
Right.
When you see a concrete truck on the road, it's either empty or it's mixing the concrete because it needs to mix for 20 minutes.
And so the oils you're talking about are oils for running the truck?
Not the trucks. None of the trucks are maintained or stored in Burlington. That was one of the conditions, too. There's no maintenance on the concrete mixers. The only maintenance would be on the front end loader, maybe,
Okay.
changing the oil every 6 months.
Hydraulics?
We have fresh hydraulic oil.
Yep.
Yep. The only other hazardous material would be used oil filters. But, I mean, 2 or 3 of those. And like was mentioned, the Board of Health regulates that in town, and she does come down every year, and we file a hazardous material registration form for the waste oil and the used oil filters. That's about it.
Sure, of course. What will be the hours of operation?
This, I think in the permit, it was 7 to 5.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday, and an option to open on Sundays. And I think that was put in for the benefit of the town of Burlington. It was back then 17 years ago, and actually Perkins owned the place more than the 17 years. It was probably 25 years. It was the 17-year point that they put, the town approved the concrete plant. We got rid of the crushing operation, which was terrible for the neighbors, the dust, the noise.
Which was actually, right?
Where was it?
Was actually my next question. So there won't be any crushing, there won't be any grinding of concrete, there won't be bringing debris, concrete debris
No.
onto the site at all, I would
No,
assume.
there still will be. It's a beneficial use product according to DEP. It's rubble, it's asphalt, brick, and concrete. It's processed to meet Mass DOT specifications for gradation, and then it's reused. Instead of going to a landfill, it's reused on road projects and parking lots
So you're going to grind or crush on site?
twice per year, 4 weeks, which was in the permit.
4 weeks?
That's not going to change, nothing's changing on the site.
So,
It's going to be exactly the same.
okay, so when that happens, is there water mixed in to
No.
keep dust down, so the
Oh, to
dust?
keep the dust down, yes, there's, typically, wherever there is dust, small portion of the property is pavement, but that, we limited that. So where the trucks would drive up and down, some of that is gravel. In the summer, we have a retention pond. One of the things we did when we improved the site, no water leaves the site. Everything stays on the site, goes into a retention pond. That's a source of water for us. We put a sump pump in there and hook it up to sprinklers, either on the aggregates, like the lightweight aggregate, or the driveway itself. You won't see any dust from the site.
So that's constantly being wet down throughout?
Not constantly, only as needed.
Yeah.
If we did it constantly, it would be we'd be trucking mud out.
I mean, I would assume in the summertime, it's during dry times. How often would that happen?
As needed, to keep the dust down. I can't say how many hours,
So it's not a routine, there's not set, like a protocol that says,
it's a protocol that you
times it
keep
should
the
be-
dust down.
yeah.
To set up, to say we're gonna do it from 7 to 5 on Wednesdays and Thursdays would create a nuisance. It could, if it rained, it would be all mud. But it's, I don't know what to say.
As needed.
As needed.
As needed, they're saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that's in the permit.
I just want to make sure I understand you. You said that the crushing will happen twice a year?
Yeah.
For 4 weeks each time?
I believe that's what's permitted.
And is that all day?
Same hours, I mean.
Same hours, okay.
But
So
it'll
are
be-
there any other dust control measures besides the water? I don't know if it's a problem with dust
No,
permeating off the site.
no,
I
there
don't
isn't.
know. Okay,
Water's all you need.
pardon me?
Water is all that you need.
Okay.
In this, I'm sorry, Bob, sorry, I was just gonna ask them, was this previously done before they were there, the same process before?
Back in the
Was the same
60s,
process before you took over, right?
back in the 60s and 70s, I played in this gravel pit
Yeah, okay.
as a kid.
No, but what your question is, yes, the last
The
17.
last person who was there did the
Per-
same thing.
Right, Perkins has been doing that every year for the
Okay.
last 17 years, per these plans,
Okay.
or per these special permits. that
That's
they-
what I wanted to
Yeah.
know, right?
So, if I may, Madam Chair, I really want to hear from the neighbors. I know some of them came tonight, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but there are some things I want to talk about at our next meeting. Specifically, we need to hear from Conservation to make sure that things haven't changed or may need to change based on, things have changed since 2006, so we'll need to talk to Conservation about that. I would like to talk to you at that time, at the next meeting, about landscaping and fencing. I took a drive-by, and I have some questions about some of the things I saw there, and I think that we can do a lot to improve the look of the site. So those things I think we can address at a later meeting, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that I want to talk about those things.
If I could just offer, within the last 30 or 40 days, Conservation did visit the site and signed off on a certificate of compliance.
Okay, well, we'll talk with them again, just make sure they didn't have any notes for us, but thank you, that's
Sure.
good to know.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Is there anyone else on the board that has any questions, comments, or notes that we want them to look at for our next
I just
meeting?
have one question, please. Similar number of employees?
Yes.
And the same employees that have been running. The same, there's really
For
two guys,
17.
there's just two guys there every day. And that's who takes care of the site. They know the site intimately, and they, in my words, they own that site. They take care of it like it's their own.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Okay. Staff, do we have a sign-in sheet for these folks?
There is a sign-in sheet, so those of you that would like to speak or are interested in being included in email updates about this hearing, if you want to sign in at the near Attorney Murphy, but if there are people who would like to speak, if they could come up to the microphone so they could be heard on the record, that would be helpful.
If you wouldn't mind just, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Murphy.
Thank you.
You can lift that, you can just hold that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a physician, a clinician, do global health. I've been in a resident of Lexington, an abutter, as you say, to Burlington since 1997. I've seen this entire story play out. And just historical perspective, this place was an environmental mess. I know the numbers, and there's an EPA report on what was going on in the sand and gravel pit, the amount of water that was pulled from Butterfield and water going back up to Winebrook and the pollutants and everything. So then 2005, when the permit to take over and make it a ready-mix concrete plant occurred, a lot of Lexington residents got together. You heard us, you acted, and you put down what was appropriate in 2005, a pretty exhaustive set of stipulations that made it a much more acceptable but not optimal environment. Optimal would be where this is located, there is no ready-mix concrete plant. I mean, if you had to do it today, you would not approve it. That's the standard we have to, I think, go at, that now that we are grandfathered in, and whether grandfathering is allowed or not by law, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a clinician, I treat patients. The fact is that we are in 2023. And so what we like to appeal to the board is for you to take action to make sure that, I know you said there are no complaints, but that's because we want to also be good neighbors. So noise is not something we are going to complain about, but we do have the problem of noise and dust. But what we are more concerned about is the water system. What's going out, what's going in. You crush concrete, we've lived that. Every time the dust changed by their own accord, Perkins themselves said they were putting out 13 tons of silica a year when they were crushing. Now you're doing 4 weeks of crushing, not a whole year of crushing. But these numbers matter. And silica comes when the wind blows right up. We have Fisk, that's not far away. It's less than a mile away. It's an elementary school. So if this is to go ahead, and you have to go, we would want to make sure there's environmental stewardship that is current as 2023 and future-facing. I mean, we're not being unreasonable as neighbors, but we want to be safe. And the last time we were very grateful that you did hear us, and you did take action. We want that action contemporized. What we also want to make sure that currently they're a business. I don't know how you measure these things, but the unit measure maybe 10 trucks a day. What happens if they go to 100 trucks a day? Risk exponentially rises because they're using more materials. And we want to make sure that we are not exposed to any sort of increased risk, because it was bad enough living with the risk that we did. But we do have a situation, I just want to leave you with this thought, is that the fact that it exists where it exists is a risk. And if there's going to be an event, and it's not that it's not happened, you can look at the data, and I've learned more about ready-mix concrete than I ever want to know. You can look at the litigations that are going on across New York and parts of the country with towns litigating against ready-mix concrete plants because there have been violations. Once it's, as a healthcare person who does global health, I can tell you I've seen this all over the world. Once it's out, it's out. And we have very sensitive areas ecologically, environmentally, and by the way, just down on your own, in the town of Burlington, not far away, you also have endangered species. Now the thing is, it's the one aquifer. Nobody's examined where that exists, that you have a salamander or whatever the endangered species are in this area. So I just want to put this forward that it's sort of, we want to be responsible, but we also want a responsible action for whoever is there. If the fact is that we have to live with a ready-mix concrete plant, that's an unfortunate fact. We can't do away with it, but let's make it the best that we can. That's my plea. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Murphy, you mentioned your client has several facilities in New York and surrounding states. Do they have any violations current or in the past?
I really, I couldn't tell you that.
Maybe that's something you could find out for us for the next meeting.
If you run any business in this world, you're gonna have a violation. If you run a hospital, you're gonna have a violation.
I understand. I mean, you've been in business for a long time. If there was,
I could look, we can get back to you.
I'd appreciate that. I mean, if there was an excessive amount, that's one thing.
Right.
If it's a couple
Yeah,
here
we'll
and there.
try to
I mean,
get some
it is-
information.
It is what it is. I understand.
Quick question?
Of course.
Staff, can we, I'm not sure who we should be reaching out to, probably the Board of Health, about the concerns about silica and dust in the air that can affect neighbors, and can we reach out to the Board of Health and perhaps they can direct us to some other expert if they don't have that expertise in-house?
I absolutely can. Yep,
Thank you.
definitely.
Great. Was there somebody else? If you wouldn't mind approaching the microphone and stating your name for the record, please.
So I'm Deepika Sani. I am a school committee member in Lexington as well as a town meeting member. And my precinct is Precinct 6, which a large part of Vine Brook, which then flows into Butterfield Pond and then flows past Adams or across Adams into the conservation swamp area right there. So apart from that, I have lived in this area since 2008 and have a dog. So I walk all over the place and I walk every day. So in my lived experience, I have seen what Vine Brook looks like in different seasons, in different years. And we all know that we are now, with climate change, experiencing episodic drought and episodic very heavy rain. So a couple of questions that if the applicant could answer would be great. Firstly, I am unclear as to what or where the source of the water is. Are they using town potable water, or is it coming directly from Butterfield Pond to do all their operations?
Years ago, probably going back to the 50s, water was withdrawn from Butterfield Pond, used to process sand and gravel, put through settling basins to met DEP standards, and was discharged upstream into Vine Brook and back to Butterfield Pond. Not an ideal situation. We ceased that operation in 2007 when the concrete plant was approved. No water leaves the site. No water leaves the site. No water goes into Butterfield Pond. No water goes into Vine Brook. It's like a ball. It's all contained on the site.
So if I understand correctly, no water leaves the site, but what I'm trying to understand is where do you get the water to actually do your operations?
For the concrete, that's potable water.
So it's town potable water? So it's not coming from the Butterfield Pond?
Nothing comes from Butterfield Pond.
And the water now is in some sort of a catchment basin, which is, it's still doing the percolation, or is it like lined catchment so the water is not, it's impervious to...
It's a retention basin designed to take the storm water and then percolate into the ground.
Okay, so there is in some ways some water going into the aquifer through a percolation mechanism.
That whole area of town is going into the aquifer when it rains.
Okay.
I believe it does percolate into the ground.
So, okay. So I was looking at some of the blueprints which were with the previous permit, and I was just reading that there's some sort of mechanism to allow for runoff, etc. So as you all look deeper into this permit, I would really, really request you to look into where groundwater is going over there, and also look at if there is any at all impact of even this percolated water, because I'm not a chemical engineer, but being married to one, I know that, you know, some of these particle sizes can be really, really small, and water molecule can actually be bigger. So a study of some nature would be great, so that really downstream or in a few years, we don't find out an uncomfortable truth. The other sad truth is that we have stuff that flies around. I mean, I look, being in a school committee, I actually gather a bunch of high school kids and we go around collecting trash in our schools, and it's a nice community effort. And there's stuff that is the whole area which is north of them into Burlington. That stuff is wetlands. And there is a lot of, I mean, I've just taken a bunch of videos which I can send to you. There's actual flowing streams. These are not standing swamps. So anything that happens around the Butterfield, Winebrook area is propagating. And we just have to be really, really careful about that. So let's have a partnership, talk to the Lexington conservation folks, talk to the Lexington administration, also town administration, so that there is no negative impact of this permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? If you please approach the microphone, state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jim Shaw. I also live in Lexington. I'm a abutter of the site in discussion. What I have, I moved to this house in 2019. I have, experienced a lot of noise. Especially, I think it's probably a lot of operations during the summer. But yeah, it's like in the summer, sometimes noise is crazy. My house is not like, next to the side, right? It's still pond, but I can still hear a lot of noise. So my question to you is there any method you plan to implement to reduce the noise?
Can you describe the noise?
The noise is like big trucks moving around, and beep, beep. So yeah, I think the wall sound is majority of
I'm not saying
noise.
it's not from us. It's flat there, and a lot of noise carries even from across the Middlesex Turnpike, the shopping mall there, and there's been a lot of construction on Lowell Street or whatever it is, and a lot of construction up on the hill above us, all those new office buildings. The beep beep would be a backup alarm for a truck. That's a federal OSHA thing that we have to comply with. We can't shut those off.
Yeah, it's a
The lumber mills, the lumberyard, Friend Lumber, trucks are backing up all the time.
got it.
The town used the site last year also.
Town of Burlington, DPW has been stockpiling things on the site.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not from us, I'm just.
Yeah, from the direction I have heard,
It's
I'm
on
pretty
their
sure it's from
property,
the
I guess.
They own property,
Pasture
right
site on the
in the middle of our property, or right in the middle of Ed's property is.
Is that where there's a little sort of a gravel turnaround area in the little?
There's a new ramp that they put down in last year.
Originally, Route 3 went through the property of the Quins, and then when that didn't go through, the state gave it to the town
Understood.
instead of giving it back to the Quins.
Liz, can you speak to
I
that,
can
please?
speak to that. It's yes, that is correct. It was old Route 3 right of way when Route 3 was supposed to go all the way through into Boston, but that ended at 128. So there are these very strange long parcels in this area of town, and the state took that land by eminent domain, and then once the state gave it back because they weren't going to use it, the town got the right of first refusal. So this site is actually there, it's like bifurcated by town of Burlington land, and so that is true. And so because of the connection to MWRA, the town has been using that site for stockpiling things. And so that's an active, ongoing process that engineering and DPW is doing. So that is true that there has been, Adams Street was an area that we were trying to make a connection through Lexington with, so that is accurate.
Great, thank you.
My next question is, are you planning to keep the same production rate or increase or decrease? And is there any plan?
Well, it's up and down. It's not the same every day, but there's a maximum that they can do. And then, I asked about the trucks. The trucks won't increase really, because each truck holds a certain amount of concrete, and we're limited to a maximum amount of concrete that we can produce. So we couldn't go in there tomorrow and ship 5,000 trucks every day.
So are you saying it will keep the same amount of production? Okay. All right. Yeah, the other thing I probably want to provide as information is what I identified. Since I moved over here for the few years, I don't know if it's totally related, but I have seen like wild animals number reduced a lot. The first year when we came, we have videos. the wild geese came with different families of geese. We have identified beaver in the river, coyotes, howling all the day. This year, somehow we did not see the geese were used to be even in the winter, but right now we somehow we don't see much. The other thing is in this summer we identified a couple of swan in the pond. It was beautiful. We really hope they can stay, but eventually they left. It could because of the different noise and dust and infections from the site.
Doing the inspections for conservation, the 2 white swans were there a few weeks ago, but there's also coyotes there, which don't mix.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Lots of coyotes.
It's mating
Time I walk, I
season
see
for
coyotes.
coyotes.
Was there
Right,
anything else
yeah.
you'd like to add, sir?
That's all my question, but I'll say I really, hope we can take this chance to improve the environment, improve the noise. That's really terrible to me, to my family, I believe, to my neighbors as well.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Yeah. Well, let's get the folks in. If you wouldn't mind approaching. Hi.
What's up, guys? My name's Andrew Cohen. I'm in a butter in Lexington, and I'd like to echo a lot of the concerns I heard tonight. I also feel the same way. The noise, particularly, is one of them. It wakes us up in the morning, and my concerns more are that this permit was granted in 2006. We're pretty far past that, and I'm kind of hoping that there's a governing body that is conducting proper oversight to make sure that today's concerns are being addressed by this old permit. I mean, we know that if this plant never existed and they applied to put a plant there, they would never be allowed to put a plant there. So, understanding the risks and making sure that there's good oversight is really important to all of us. One of the concerns I have is, there's a lot of particulate that's on the ground there, and it could easily wash into the Butterfield Pond. I know you have a retention, but with the climate changing, we're getting a lot of heavy soaking rains that create a tremendous amount of runoff. And I'm curious if there's any way to contain that kind of flooding that might hit the site.
There is. We have kind of a 5-step process. Number one, the stockpiles of material or inert mineral aggregates, they're porous and permeable. Any rainwater that hits them goes through them. It's the same materials that are used to filter drinking water. The whole site is graded such that no water leaves the site. You're talking about the big stream.
Yes.
The stockpiles are at least 100 feet. We can made a demarcation line 100 feet from the existing wetlands when we did site improvements. So there's 100 feet of vegetation. We revegetated 1,000 feet of riverfront area and gave up about 2.5 acres of usable land. And that's all vegetated buffer if the water got that far.
Right.
So you have elevation, you have the vegetated buffer, you have the permeability, and there's also a berm, a Butterfield Pond, 4 to 6 feet high above the ground.
Okay.
And no water leaves the site.
Do they do any measurement of the turbidity in the pond?
We don't have anything to do with the pond. We don't put any water into the pond.
I understand, but there is a particulate nature to the product that you're using, and is there any way that you can consistently measure to see if it's getting into the pond through the ground, through whatever means?
I don't know of anything
No.
going on like that.
Perhaps we could ask our Conservation Commission if there's some way for us to test the water in the pond.
Yeah, I can reach out to Conservation and see what they have to say.
Right, thank you. I do know that the pond is you know, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's algae issue sometimes, and that creates like an oxygenation issue for the plants and animals there. And, you know, introducing another type of dampening material like dust to create, you know, like more barrier for sunlight and oxygen for it's like a cascading problem for that whole area. You know, there are aquifers that you know, back up to, it connects to a lot of really important things.
Staff, can you also reach out to Lexington Conservation and see if they have anything that they can add, whether they've had any findings or issues?
One question for Mr. Cohen, if I may.
Please.
Did you
Yes.
say that you were awakened prior to 7 a.m. by noise from this?
No,
site?
but.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
But at 7, we can hear the trucks. I understand that there are safety measures installed in those trucks that they have to beep when they back up. I don't know if there's a way that they could route in a way where they don't have to back up, where they could just, you know, pull right up to wherever it is and then keep going.
Concrete plant, the trucks pull in.
Yes.
All enclosed, so there's no way to go through.
Right.
Sucks all the dust into a fabric filter and reuses it in the concrete.
Gotcha.
They have to back out.
Right. Okay.
And keep in mind, that's not the only business on the street backing up.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
so you still may have the problem, even if they weren't here, the problem still may be there.
I think there's a correlation, you know, between, yes. And like, so you mentioned that once a year, the inspectors come to make sure everything's cool. Is there, I don't know if there's a way for, as residents, is that information made transparent? My concern is that, you know, without the proper oversight as residents, we don't know if we're quietly being harmed by something, you know? And it'd be nice to us with children and with the elementary school nearby to be able to see the results of the things we're asking about today rather than just this one opportunity.
I wonder, staff, if it would be possible for us to have a member of the Board of Health attend a session so they could address some of these health concerns.
I can reach out to them. One thing I will say is that every year, because they were granted a special permit in 2006, the Board of Health has hazardous material registration forms.
Yes.
And those are all public documents that you can absolutely request from them
Great.
anytime.
Great.
But yes, I can reach out to Susan Luminello and the Board of Health and just see what they have to say about it.
Would be great. Thank you.
I would recommend that, you know, as a Lexington resident, you probably have the ability to contact your own Board of Health to, you know,
Yes.
see if that, you know, they could inquire and test and do things as well over there.
Certainly, absolutely.
I'm sure they'd be willing to
Yes.
communicate with our Board of Health as well.
Right, okay. And then I just wanted to get a little clarification if anyone is aware of the regulations in 2006 that informed this permit. How have they changed?
That's what we'll be addressing next meeting.
That's great. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, sir. So there's somebody online, but, you know, I think I personally would like to walk the site while you're operating, if that is agreeable. You know, I'd love to see, you know, kind of what this retention basin looks like. You know, and maybe if we can get some pictures so we can show the public that this is kind of what's going on. If that is something that's agreeable, that I think we would like to do that. Additionally, where there is so much concern about noise, if there is a property owner here that would like to say, hey, this is my house, can you come stand here and listen to the noise? I'd be happy to be that person to see if I agree with you. Again, if the applicant is accepting of that.
I mean, you could also require them to have some noise testing done at the locations that we're talking about. To
We
see
could,
if
I mean, let's
what
go down there and
rises-
see what it looks like first.
what it rises to. I would also like throw out the idea of the possibility of, I'm a little more concerned about the grinding periods, you know, and maybe some sort of oversight, you know, third-party independent oversight during the periods of grinding, and, you know, if that, during that process isn't wet down enough, that stuff all goes airborne, and I just, you know, was a big concern of mine up at the Building 19 site when that happened, and that would be another concern over here on a regular basis if they're doing it over a month period or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I think air quality is probably my biggest concern, and noise secondary to that.
Well, I think for me, I understand that a lot of what you're doing is just duplicating what's been done. But I think everyone's made the point that, I mean, that was a long time ago. So I think I'd like to also hear, even though I won't be in attendance the next meeting, I will be watching it, how you plan to make things better. Because we always want to evolve. And I think that's also, you know, our jobs on this board is to make sure we're evolving and considering the future and the impacts there. So I would definitely like to hear, you know, what the plans are for improvements overall in noise and some of the dust.
There is, oh, that person put their hand down. Okay. Sure, it's you. Please approach.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Samir. I'm one of the neighbors across the pond. I'd like to echo everything that everyone said. I think those are fair points. We all have young children. There were two things that I wanted to add. One is, like everybody mentioned, the last permit was approved in 2006, 17 years, or 18 years, 17 years. Now, you know, we are reconsidering it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, it gets approved. What happens in 36 or 30, you know, like, if nothing is changing, like, I think you brought a good point, what are we doing to improve it? What changes? What is the vision for Burlington, Lexington, that area? Should we continue doing that, or should there be a slow transition towards something else? I think if we have that sort of vision mentioned, because I think 17 years from today, a lot of us may not be here, right? So whoever there is should have that vision well documented that, hey, this is where we want to go. It's been one time we have already grandfathered this in. Perhaps we should look the other way or continue to improve that. That's one thing. So if we could, in our next meeting, if you could briefly touch base on that. Second is, we spoke about that there's a yearly test done, and we spoke about there or not, but there are some materials that run off from the site. If you could consider what is the trajectory of that over 17 years, right? In 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on, are we seeing consistent results, like nothing is wrong, or we are seeing, like I heard something about silica dust or whatever, are we seeing that gradually increase in the environment or not? I think those two aspects will be very good for neighbors to kind of have a peace of mind when that decision is made. Because usually when these kind of things come to surface, it's usually like, it's a little late and now we need to do some cleanup and take a step back, right? Sure. So I think those are the two things that I want to mention here, please.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
That's a good point. So it's safe, but is it increasing or is it steady? That's a good question.
I think it's for Board of Health and Conservation.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I think we have some homework to do. Staff, if you can coordinate with Attorney Murphy and put together a site walk. I think, is there anything else that the board would like to add at this time?
The one thing that I would like to just quickly address, and, you know, long-range planning about this area, is I've reached out to Attorney Murphy and asked him to reach out to his client. So there is a trail that comes almost to the Burlington line from Lexington that is a spur or gets close to the Minuteman Bike Trail. And so, you know, I know there's a lot of want in town to make that that connection happen. We've heard from residents, and everybody says, I wish I could go on a trail with my kids. I wish, you know, I could bike to work. If we can provide people options to not get in their car, I think that is just a benefit to everybody. So I have asked Attorney Murphy if he can speak to his client about providing us an easement along the frontage with the site to potentially do a sidewalk, mixed-use path, so that we can at least, you know, have a piece of that puzzle to eventually get into Burlington. So I just wanted to put that out there and put that on the record.
Great, thank you, Liz. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of February 16th, 2023.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On the sheet if you have not already.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have another motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take items 7F through 7N together for discussion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item F is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.2.7.4, laboratories engaged in research, experimental and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of chemistry, electronics, engineering, geology, non-biologic medicine, and physics of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item G is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.2.7.4.1, life science laboratories engaged in research, prototype manufacture, experimental and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceutical, biomedical technologies and engineering, life system technologies, environmental and biomedical devices, biosafety, level 4, BL4 laboratories as defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which are prohibited in Burlington, the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item H is a public hearing, application for approval of special permit pursuant to 4.2.7.4.2, life science laboratories engaged in the manufacture of life science technologies and medicines for commercial production to the market, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceuticals, biomedicals, technologies and engineering, life system technologies, environmental, biomedical devices, biosafety level 4, but BL4 laboratories is defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are prohibited in Burlington of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item I is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.2.7.9, hazardous and toxic materials, chemicals used, storage, transport, disposal, or discharge of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item J is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.2.7.12, generation or storage of hazardous waste in excess of the volumes classified as a very small quantity generator of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item K is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.3.2.15, storage and disposal of oils and fuels, petroleum products of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item L is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.4.1.11, discharges from man-made structures into the wetlands zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item M is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 6.1.2, non-conforming structures and premises of the zoning bylaws, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant. Item N is a public hearing, application for approval of a site plan, 15 Burlington Mall Road, AKA 5 Burlington Woods Drive, 5 Burlington Woods LLC is the applicant.
Nice and fast.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Sign you. Good evening.
We get out of here so early.
Sorry you had to suffer through all that, but,
I'm going to lose my voice because of you guys.
good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Nice to be before you this evening. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn with the law firm of Reamer and Bronstein, representing the applicant here tonight for the special permits for the property located at 5 Burlington Woods in Burlington. So have a few folks here that I'll introduce, part of our team, but Dave Robinson, who's civil engineer with Allen and Major, the civil engineering firm of record for the project. Mike Manship, who is an architect with Vivo Architects involved, and then Robin Duragusker, who is a local property representative for the ownership group. And I know we have a couple of folks from the ownership group that are participating remotely as well. So I'm going to be brief in terms of my remarks, and then I'm going to maybe turn it over to the property owner to just introduce themselves a little bit. But this is a property that I think you're all familiar with and probably drive by, not daily, but perhaps weekly at least. But it's a property that's right at the corner of Burlington Woods Drive and Burlington Mall Road. It's an office building that was built sometime back in the early 1980s. It was built at a time where you actually could have parking underneath the building, structured parking incorporated into the first floor of the building as it is today. It's a building that traditionally has had office tenants in it. It has a lot of vacancies today. And my client, Montana Avenue Capital Partners, had an opportunity to purchase the building, and I know that are very excited about the ability to repurpose this building for life science and lab use. It's a use that, as I think the board knows, is one that has become prominent. There's property right across the street, actually, at 4 Burlington Woods that was previously owned by Gutierrez that has been repurposed for the same type of use. And then down the road, obviously, at 3 Burlington Woods, we were before you last year for a similar rehabilitation of that building, which actually has a lot of similarities to this in terms of the parking underneath. So the footprint of the building is basically staying the same. We're not talking about any significant changes to the building. It's a building of about 105,000 square feet today. We are proposing to infill some of that structured parking, if you would, with storage areas and whatnot that would be consistent with what you would see with a life science and a lab operation. And as David can point out on the site plan in a moment, but you can see it with in the corner of the building, we are proposing to have a loading dock in that area as well. So working with staff, with Liz and Caleb, we've tried to incorporate a number of landscaping improvements within the site. And also, I know a focal point of this redevelopment has also been to provide some pedestrian improvements as well. There's somewhat of a missing link of sidewalk from Mall Road going down to Burlington Woods Drive, and I think we're proposing a way to kind of connect the two. So again, I know it's a lot of special applications to read, but they're all consistent with what you would expect for a life science and lab operation for what we would need to apply for. So I know that the team is very experienced and has a lot of history with lab and life science operations, so they know what they're doing. We did have an opportunity to meet with the Board of Health to make sure that they were comfortable with the operation, and I know that they had conditions that I believe they've submitted to the board for eventual incorporation, hopefully, into the decision. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce I'm not sure who's going to be speaking on behalf of Montana Avenue Capital Partners. So just, they're headquartered in Los Angeles. They asked me if it was, they were willing to come out, knowing the temperatures tomorrow. I hope you're not going to hold that against them. So,
I mean, I'm a little jealous, but yeah.
But I know they're very excited.
Yeah, we could have gone to them, that's.
Yeah, there you go. I know they're very excited about this opportunity. They've been looking for the right asset in Burlington. So, but if I could introduce Khalil or whomever, so.
I'm not sure who, I will unmute them, whoever is on their phone. Let's see, unmute.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Pennington. I'm a partner with Montana Avenue Capital Partners. Thank you, Mark, for that thorough and excellent introduction. I'll keep my remarks rather short in comparison, but just introduce our firm and express our appreciation for your time and consideration and really your collaboration. We've had nothing but positive interactions with the town of Burlington since we first met with Liz and her team about a year ago this month. Montana Avenue Capital Partners is an investment firm. We focus solely on real estate investments. We have investments across the continental United States. I work the San Diego and Boston markets, which is the bulk of our life science holdings in our portfolio. We collaborate with many different investors, but those are our two primary markets. We also have holdings in San Francisco Bay Area as well, and are trying to expand to a couple additional life science markets. As Mark said, we have quite a deep resume of experience and hope to be an asset to the community of Burlington going forward and taking an asset that's been flagging and repurposing it and getting it ready for a productive future as part of the town.
So if I could, thank you, Brad. What I thought I could do was maybe have Dave speak to just some of the improvements that we're making and then segue into the sidewalk, where we did submit a revised plan today that we had a DCM meeting with staff, and there were some good suggestions about how we might be able to better locate the sidewalk, and particularly a pedestrian connection across Burlington Woods Drive that's non-existent today. So we had some suggestions on that. So you want to maybe just talk about the landscaping enhancements and just maybe drill down on what we're talking about here?
Yeah, sure. I can kind of go through an overview of the site items. For the record, David Robinson, Allen and Major Associates. So the major addition, as Mark mentioned, is a 1,200 square foot loading dock right in the corner of that L-shaped building. In addition, we also have some utility rooms that are going to be beneath the building. The building's actually up on a pedestal. The loading dock recesses 4 feet so that trucks can back in and be, at the same level. And there's a trench drain proposed at the bottom to accommodate any runoff that's going to go into there. That'll be treated by a grid separator. Additional utilities on the site, we're bringing in a gas line kind of running north to south from Mall Road, and a couple of electrical upgrades that are needed as well. For the landscaping, we proposed a pretty robust screening. That was one of the earliest comments from the planning board. It's really like 4 tiers of screening, including trees, tall sky pencil plants, between the loading dock and that northern portion of Burlington Mall Road. Obviously, the loading dock is screened by the existing building from Burlington Woods Drive and west towards Mall Road. I think that's a pretty good overview of sort of some of the changes. There is a net decrease in impervious on site. We're proposing a couple additional landscaped islands in the existing pavement areas. And I think that's a pretty decent overview of kind of what we're doing with the site. We did go through the landscaping requirements. There's a summary table on the bottom right-hand corner to make sure that we were meeting those requirements. We did take a look at that. So that's a lot of the site items on the site. If you wouldn't mind scrolling to the next PDF.
Oh, yeah.
The sidewalk. So the sidewalk, we've had some back and forth with the town. We've gotten some good feedback, as Mark mentioned. I think that this plan that I provided today kind of really encapsulates what the town is looking for with regards to this pedestrian connection. As Mark mentioned, there's kind of some loose ends that need to be tied up. So if you just zoom out a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. So one of the comments was sort of to provide a safe pedestrian crossing parallel to Mall Road. There's 2 existing ADA ramps on either side of Burlington Woods Drive that need to be rebuilt and kind of realigned to make it as safe as possible for pedestrians. So there is an ADA ramp shown to the left. There's a painted crosswalk across the throat of Burlington Woods Drive. We need to cut back the curbing and the landscaped area there a little bit, and then provide another ADA ramp up at the top right corner to make a safe connection across Burlington Woods Drive. In addition to that, we're also providing a sidewalk along the edge of Burlington Woods Drive that will make a connection. We'll need a new ADA ramp right where the cursor is there. And then we'll be making exactly a connection south across Burlington Woods to another proposed ADA ramp. And then if you go to the next sheet, it continues on the south side of Burlington Woods Drive now. There's another sidewalk, and then that will tie into, on the right-hand side there, it ties into an existing ADA ramp and sort of short concrete, bituminous asphalt sidewalk there. So it's kind of making that full pedestrian connection from Mall Road, across Mall Road, and to an existing ramp near the Piedmont-owned park property there at 25 Mall Road.
The kind of the missing link, if you would, of sidewalk that we've tried to incorporate some connectivity there that we thought would be helpful and pursuant to the decisions of staff from a way back. And I think the police department, the safety officer is the one that noted the kind of awkward handicap ramp where that comes out right there, almost like lets people go right out into the street onto Mall Road. So that's what David was talking about, how we're going to realign that ramp and then have something go right across. And then on the other side, a slight realignment as well to be able to, yeah. But that's really Mike can certainly speak to some of the interior improvements. So it's not a building that we have a certain tenant that we're leasing it out to. The intent would be that probably a few different tenants likely in terms of the build out of the space and control rooms and whatnot.
The intention is, first off, Mike Manchin with Vivo Architecture.
Thank you.
The intent is at least the first 2 floors will be multi-tenanted. The top floor, the 3rd floor could be multi-tenanted. I think in an ideal world, it would be a single user on the 3rd floor, but all of that is still to be determined.
How many square feet is each floor?
Just over 35,000, I believe.
Okay. Does staff, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, I have a few notes. This is, I compare this to, to what we previously approved, 3 Burlington Woods Drive, a very similar 80s style building that's being upgraded. Again, I think there's an additional interior square footage because they're going to be closing in some of the atrium, and then on the bottom floor they're going to be adding, utilities and whatnot. So as far as comments from other boards, so the Conservation will be hearing this on its February 9th meeting, so we'll hear from them. The other thing is, so we have a new traffic safety officer, Peter Bashkaroon. He's wonderful. And one thing that I remember from when Bernie Cipoletti was here as the previous traffic safety officer, that this intersection, specifically turning into Burlington Woods Drive, is extremely dark at night and is actually a safety concern. Like it's very, very dark and it's not well lit. So I think that that's something to just talk about, think about for next meeting. The other thing I was interested in is along the sidewalk that you guys are adding to Woods Drive, which is fantastic. How do you get from that sidewalk to the front door of your building? What is the route one would take? Is it an obvious route, or is it not obvious? So that's another question I have for that. I don't know if you want to address that now or at the next meeting.
The front door, main entry lobby, if you would, of the building is right where that.
It's right there,
Kind of like the brick, you can see the brick, yeah,
Right
there you go,
that's the
right.
front entrance.
Okay, so you would go off of the handicap ramp around kind of, and then to the front door?
Yeah, it's pretty direct.
Okay. Okay.
Is there a bus stop over there? I think there's a bus stop right there, right?
I don't know, remember off the top.
MBTA.
There is a bus stop adjacent. I think there's one around.
Isn't it on Mall Road?
There's probably one on Mall Road.
It's on Mall Road.
I don't think I've seen one out on Burlington Woods.
No, Woods Drive, it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, it's on Mall Road.
It's at the corner of, so Burlington Woods comes out here. Yeah, it's not quite there. Yeah. So I do drive by this every day because I live right there. The other thing I'm curious about is, and you can even see in this picture, there's so much blacktop. I guess, like, what the options are, like, do we need all those parking spaces? I know you mentioned there will be some islands with some more greenery, but I think really understanding the options for it, not just being, it looks like a massive parking lot, is something I'd be interested in, and you're right, it does get, because I also like walk very often around there, it's very dark, and obviously like this time of year, when it's dark early, it would be nice to understand what the options are for that too.
So we are reducing, we're losing about 44 parking spaces from what's out there, and we are incorporating some landscape islands, as you can see there. So, I mean, hopefully that is an improvement over what's out there today.
Well, you're losing parking under the building, you're not bringing up any, you're not
think-
tearing up any blacktop, right?
I think it's a combination of the two. Most of them are probably under the building, to be honest with you, but outside, we're providing new
If you could
pervious area
explore
as
it,
well.
if there are some places where you could put some green space in where there's currently blacktop, we would love to see that. I think that's what Jess was getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I know also you have to obviously have enough parking,
Yes.
especially if you're having
Sure.
multi-tenants, but it is just a lot of asphalt.
The spaces, this is, I mean, it was built in the 80s when parking for everybody was just paving everything in the 80s. So it's one of those sites.
There may be opportunities to reduce the pavement and put some more green space in. Something to think about.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything that they want to add?
I have a question.
Sure.
Or it's a question and a comment. I don't know if you can answer this now because you don't have your tenants. I just sort of want you to think about hazardous waste storage, because we have had other businesses come to us who, after operating for some time, wanted to incorporate an additional external building for hazardous waste storage. We do not want that. We want you to have a plan for dealing with that internal to your building. So if you could just be very intentional about that and give us what that plan is the next time you come. Thank you.
I can speak to that a little bit. So
Sure.
Some of the space that we're adding in the building will be is dedicated for storage area. Again, not knowing the tenants, if there is a particular tenant that has a very specific operation that requires something else, we'll just have to address that as it comes up. But we have planned for some centralized control of that at the lower level, which includes a pH neutralization room that will be part of the central infrastructure. So all the tenants
We use the same storage area.
and the building owner will manage that.
Maybe we can put in our decision that all hazardous waste must be contained within the existing structure.
Yep, I have a note of that.
I like that, thank you. Is there anyone else that has,
I have one other site request.
Sure.
Is that, so the Burlington Woods Drive entrance is a very, very wide space, and when you're a pedestrian and you're walking there, to be in a space that is, it's an uncomfortable place to walk when you just have empty roadway that you're walking across. So I was hoping that there's an existing island at the entrance of Burlington Woods Drive, and I was hoping that we could add a pedestrian refuge spot there, so cut into the granite curbing and pave it so that you can stop there as a pedestrian. It's more comfortable and more pleasant as opposed to going across that entire area. So it's that's something I would kind of.
Talking about the main entrance to the building, to the site.
I think she's talking about that right there.
I'm talking about the crosswalk is, having that pedestrian refuge. I think we might have covered it at the DCM, but it's a long way for a pedestrian to walk and kind of feels unsafe. It's just not pleasant for a pedestrian to do that. So if you guys could just look into that, throwing it out there, that would be helpful. Thank you.
great. Okay, so sounds like we have some homework to do.
Yep.
For the next meeting, and
Is there-
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment or has a question?
I don't see anyone.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this public hearing to the meeting of February 16th.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you on the 16th.
Great, thank you. Appreciate all your time.
folks.
All right, thanks.
Minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those minutes? Yes. May I have a motion, please?
Thank you. Good one, guys.
Can we all vote on both of these minutes?
I am going to be abstaining from January 5th because I wasn't here.
Okay, fair.
So I'll make the motion and then, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes of January 5th, 2023.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
And Madam Chair, I'd further like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of November 17th, 2022.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, moving on. Last evening, we had a public meeting regarding the Blanchard Wheeler Bike PED improvements.
So we had just kind of update on that. I talked about it a little bit in announcements. We had a great turnout. It was awesome. We'll be providing updates. I just want to do a shout out. Kayla's been doing an amazing job on our social media platforms. So, you know, for those of you who are watching in the audience, Twitter, it's at planning01803, so planning and then our zip code, and I think it's the same for Instagram. And then we have our Facebook page. So all of these public meetings, information is going to be disseminated that way as well, also on the town calendar. I don't know, I know Brenda, you were also at the working group working on the Mall Road Middlesex Turnpike. I don't know if you wanted to just give a brief, hey, this is what we did, this, you know.
So there was quite the turnout. And I think, you know, almost every board was very well represented, which I thought was really cool. The other thing that I thought was really great was that a lot of the property owners were present to collaborate with us and our, you know, I think I stressed the need for transparency with the property owners so that, you know, we can really collaborate and make that area the best that it can be. I think there's a lot of work to do, but I think we have a great team who's very eager and focused, and so I'm looking forward to seeing kind of, you know, what the future holds.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have approval of our budget. But it's budget season, and so I've not asked for any increase. You know, it's a steady budget, just dealing with annual salary increases. There's nothing surprising. You know, I've increased some things for like kind of subscription services for software, just things that like cost of living are going to get, you know, added up. So it's kind of a steady budget, not asking for anything crazy.
Do we have sufficient line item for consulting?
We can add more if you would like.
I think if we have the wiggle room, I think that we should.
I will look into that. So if we want to add that to the motion, we can do that. I know that there's a percentage by which we are, that we don't want to go, a percentage increase that we don't want to go up. I haven't hit that yet, so we're well within what we're, well within our means to do that if we were to.
Have we heard about when we're meeting with Ways and Means?
I think it is, I put it in the calendar. Actually, I haven't.
Let us know.
I'll let you know. I feel like it's in this pile of things.
Is it before our next meeting?
No.
All right, so can we hold
Let's
on
see,
and
a
take a
meeting?
look at what we've used for consulting services, what we actually need, what we anticipate for, you know, for the upcoming year, and then we'll vote next.
We can do that, and we'll double check with Whitney. They just want like a general thing, but I don't think we're gonna be asking anything crazy. So I don't meet with Ways and Means until March 15th.
Oh, so we have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time, but the administration does want something more official sooner rather than later, just so they can wrap their heads around it and plan. So we can, so we can do that. Okay.
Cool. Town Center electronic sign update.
So there is no update. I just wanted to let everybody know that it opened at town meeting, and it was, there was a little bit of debate, but I think that people at town meeting generally felt that it wasn't ready for prime time, that there needed to be a little bit more research done and a little more decisions made. And so it has been postponed, but that it will, I'm sure we'll see it again and, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
When I saw that, I was saying, I'm on that committee too. People fail to realize that, we all have subcommittees. So it's, it's this meeting and then a lot more.
Yeah.
So I was a little confused on that, so great.
No, that's all I wanted to say. I
miss
just wanted to
anything.
let everybody know that that's what happened.
Okay, does anyone have any, anything else they'd like to add? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good night, folks.